Let's start with a staggering number, 200 million. That is roughly the population that gathers at the Kumbh Mela, making it the largest peaceful gathering of humanity on Earth. Parallel to this massive river festival, every year during the month of Shravan, millions of devotees undergo grueling, week-long physical journeys. Their goal is highly specific: to pour cooling milk and water over stone lingams representing the god Shiva. On the surface, a colossal river gathering and a dispersed, month-long water-pouring ritual seem disconnected. So what ancient shared event forces millions of people to repeat these drastically different behaviors year after year? These modern crowds are dealing with the living fallout of a cosmic political crisis. They are physically acting out the consequences of a universe-breaking disaster, one that was triggered by a single act of extreme arrogance. According to Hindu texts, the crisis began with Devraj Indra, king of the gods. A powerful sage presented Indra with a highly sacred garland representing perfect sensory control. An arrogant Indra threw it onto his elephant's trunk. The animal tossed the divine gift to the floor and crushed it. The sage immediately cursed Indra and the entire divine realm, stripping them of their Shri, their wealth, power, and splendor. In an instant, their mortal enemies, the demonic asuras, marched in and easily conquered the weakened heavens. One failure of personal discipline at the highest tier of leadership created a total power vacuum. To reclaim their kingdom, the displaced gods had to execute an unthinkable solution. Desperate, the gods approached Lord Vishnu. He laid out a radical piece of political strategy. The weakened gods needed to form a temporary treaty with the asuras who had defeated them. The objective of this alliance was to extract the Amrit, the ultimate nectar of immortality, by quite literally churning the cosmic ocean. This schematic reveals the immense physical mechanics required for the Samudra Manthan, or churning of the ocean. To build an engine large enough, they used a mountain as the central vertical axis. They wrapped a massive cosmic serpent around it to act as the twisting helix rope. And to keep the mountain from sinking into the seabed, Vishnu took the form of a giant turtle, providing a perfectly stable base. Extracting this ultimate power demanded massive collaboration, forcing enemies to pull together on the same rope to operate this precise cosmic machinery. But the extreme friction of the churning generated a catastrophic unintended consequence. Before any nectar appeared, the ocean boiled over with the hala hala, an apocalyptic poison that threatened to dissolve all of creation. To prevent universal destruction, Lord Shiva stepped forward. He gathered the violently swirling toxicity and voluntarily drank it all himself. To save him, his consort, the goddess Parvati, clamped her hands around his throat. She stopped the lethal poison from spreading into his body, permanently staining his neck blue and giving him the name Neelkant. Which brings us directly back to the Shravan month rituals today. The entire month is a conceptual reenactment of this exact moment of sacrifice. When millions of devotees pour cooling liquids over Shiva lingams, they are stepping into the role of cosmic first responders. They are symbolically soothing his throat, honoring the extreme sacrifice required to keep reality intact. With the poison contained, the churning resumed. Magnificent celestial treasures emerged from the ocean, culminating in the physician of the gods holding the Amrit. Predictably, the asuras immediately broke the treaty, hijacked the nectar, and ran. To secure the nectar, Vishnu executed a masterclass in deception. He transformed into Mohini, an enchantress so stunningly beautiful that the asuras handed the pot directly to her. Mesmerized, they watched passively as she began distributing immortality exclusively to the gods. But the system had a glitch. A demon named Rahu saw through the illusion. He shapeshifted, quietly slipped into the line of gods, and successfully swallowed a single drop of the nectar. As soon as he was spotted, a violent cosmic correction followed. Vishnu threw his razor-sharp celestial disc and beheaded Rahu. But because the nectar had already passed his lips, the strike didn't kill him. It split him into two severed, immortal entities that drifted into the cosmos. Vishnu's trick restored the gods to power, but Rahu's anomaly embedded a permanent flaw into the fabric of the universe. In Hindu cosmology, those two severed halves of Rahu still roam the sky, forever chasing and swallowing the sun and the moon to create our eclipses. Armed with immortality, the gods finally routed the Asuras. But as they fled across the sky with the contested urn, the frantic escape caused the pot of nectar to tilt. This map tracks their flight. 4 drops of liquid spilled, striking the earth at Prayagraj, Haridwar, Nashik, and Ujjain. The gods' 12-day journey translates to 12 human years. This cosmic timetable dictates the Kumbh Mela's 12-year cycle, moving systematically between these massive population nodes. Those 200 million people gathered at the riverbanks are physically wading into the exact geographical impact zones of those ancient spilled drops. They are stepping directly into the myth, seeking the purifying power of the nectar. The scale of the Kumbh Mela tells us where the nectar landed, but the specific sequence of the story suggests why it still resonates with the individual. The myth doesn't just describe a physical event, it provides a structural map for the internal process of growth. Look at the order of the extraction. The divine nectar didn't appear as soon as the churning began. Instead, the friction first forced the most suffocating, lethal toxins to the surface. It is a direct parallel to any deep effort to improve the self. When we churn our own consciousness to find clarity, our repressed fears and hidden poisons are almost always the first things to emerge. This means that the appearance of the poison isn't a failure of the process, but a necessary step toward the nectar. The Samudra Manthan leaves us with a final, enduring truth, that the divine and the toxic are inseparable parts of the same ocean, and balancing them is a struggle that never truly ends.